Hey everyone, welcome to ReBloom, the podcast where we explore the power of change, rediscovery, and living with intention.
That's right. We're your hosts, Lori and Jamie, two friends who really love a good story about transformation.
In each podcast, we're going to chat with inspiring guests who've made bold pivots in their lives or careers. They've let go of what no longer served them to embrace something more authentic, joyful, and true to who they really are.
And the best part, many of them reconnect with passions or dreams they discovered as kids. It's about finding the seeds planted long ago and letting them bloom again.
So if you're ready for real conversations about reinvention, purpose, and following your creative heart, you're in the right place.
Let's dive in and see what it takes to rebloom. Oh my gosh. Our listeners are in for an incredible treat with this conversation with the Annie Sloan. I got to meet her recently, and I want to be her new best friend because we're both research gurus and nerds and love to do deep dives into color. And she has built a business around that, an incredible business.
An incredible business. And listeners, this is an episode that you absolutely don't want to miss. She's sharing her journey. She's sharing some of her challenges. She's just the best. And what an absolute joy to speak with her. And you are going to feel like you all have a new best friend. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ReBloom podcast. I am Jamie Jameson.
And I'm Lori Siebert, and we are in for a treat today.
Hi, Lori.
Hi, James. It's been crazy the last couple days, but here we are, and we're podcasting again.
We are podcasting again, and so excited for today's episode. Lori, who are we welcoming on today?
Well, I had the extreme pleasure of meeting this person in person recently at the gift show in Atlanta. I'm strolling along and I peer inside a showroom, and there sits Annie Sloan. And she is one of my heroes. So I just walked right in and, I met her and I thought, oh gosh, I wish I could have coffee with her every week. She's amazing. So a lot of the decorative painters in the world know of Annie and the incredible paint that she created, chalk paint, which I do have some, and it's amazing paint. But I did a deeper dive into her life, and her life is incredibly interesting with a stint in a band.
I know. So cool.
I know. I don't know if we'll get into that too much because we want to focus on like her life and pivots she's made. But Annie, we just want to know more about you and your creative life and the pivots you've made and the challenges you face. So welcome.
Welcome,
Thank
Annie.
you so much. It's really lovely. What a gorgeous, gorgeous welcome. And I do remember you coming in and me just going, hello, because I recognized you immediately. It was so good to speak to you. Oh. And I love what you're doing because, yes, I think the pivot idea is really important, both to women and to men.
Yes,
absolutely. So take us on a little journey in your life. I know that you grew up as a creative person. So maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I come from a fairly creative family. My father was very creative and artistic and open to ideas and intellectual things and taught me about art and color and stuff from a very, very early age. And I was surrounded by it. I was born in Australia. I came to England, blah, blah, blah. We did lots of traveling around everywhere. So lots and lots of influences. And then I went to art school, and I went to art school in the time when the art school and the music scene was very big. It was I have to say, it was quite a while ago. It was in the late 60s, early 70s. And people now write theses and stuff about that time. People like David Bowie went to art school and then they did music. And there's an awful lot of examples like that. Mm-hmm. So I went to art school, did art, but I also was a little bit involved in music. So you just mentioned that. I don't seem to be able to get away from from it, but it was an important thing because it's
Yeah.
all about creativity and it's reinventing yourself and all of that. And I think that reinventing yourself is very important. So I did that, and we were actually a really sort of quite a cult band. And there we are. I actually went to New York once at the university in New York, and they were doing, they were interviewing me and some of my other band members about art schools in the 70s, particularly in Britain, and about the music scene. So I'm part of a thesis. I mean,
Oh,
Oh,
of
that's
course you
fun.
are.
Of
I
course
would
you are.
not expect any less.
so it's
So,
all about performance art, which I think I still find, God, how did that happen? Anyway, much later on, I then decided actually music business was great, but it was before you could do it your own, and so there was a lot of more management involved. And I'm much more I'm too independent for that, and so I wanted to do more art and painting. Not so much art; it's just paint. I really love paint. I think it's transformative in
mhm.
many ways. So I ended up getting very involved in the whole idea of paint. I did a little bit of journalism after art school. I was involved in a magazine called Time Out, which actually was in America at one point, just in New York, I think. It might have been in San Francisco too. And it was a magazine about events. And so I was involved in all of that, daily events. So when I started doing that, and that sort of got me into the whole where else you could be, not just with music, but with literature and music, not music, with art. And I started researching while I did this part-time job as a journalist, and I thought about, I want to write a book. So I wrote a book, and that was transformative again, because I wrote this book about decorative painting because I was doing sort of to get money, murals and things for people in London. And I was meeting all these amazing men all men, who were what we call painter and decorators. I think in America you call them something else, and I've forgotten. But they're just your average guy who's going to paint your house. But this
Uh-huh.
was
Okay.
in the high end. And so they would be doing marbling and wood graining and all that fabulous stuff. And I started seeing them, and I thought, these guys are going to die soon. They're mainly, they're not authors or writers. And so I thought, this is going to be a great thing to write about. So I started trying to get a book together. I eventually bought out a book called The Complete Book of Decorative Paint Techniques, and that was done in 1989, I think it was, so a long time ago. And that sold incredibly well. I think we sold something like 2 million copies worldwide,
Wow.
which was
Wow.
Wow.
amazing.
Wow.
And that was, of course, before the internet. You couldn't get this information anywhere else other than a book. And we were in 11 languages. Incredible.
Wow.
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 And that, yeah, it was amazing. And so that led me on to working and thinking about other areas of decorative painting, not just walls and fancy houses, but I got more and more interested in normal, ordinary people. What did they do? How did they paint? And I looked at, actually, America was my first influence, because you had all that what's it called, Pennsylvania Dutch
Uh-huh.
The milk
Yeah.
paints
painting,
too.
folk
Yeah.
painting, which led me on
Yeah.
to people like Rufus Porter, who was painting all those beautiful houses in, I think it'd be upstate Connecticut and
Mhm.
Massachusetts and upstate
Mhm.
New York. And I thought this was really interesting. In searching for that, researching, I found that it all came from mainly Sweden, but Germany and what have you, but a lot of it from Sweden. And that just got me on painted furniture, because that was in the fancy houses and it was in the farmhouses, and it was, everybody. And I got so interested in that. So I've been looking at that. I'm a little bit nerdy. I love doing research, and
Mhm.
looking things up. I like buying books about, you can't find any of this stuff. Even on the internet today, it's difficult to find. So what I bought was a load of old books about marbling, wood graining, what they did, whatever. Um, and so I got into it. And one way or another, this is a long way to explain to you that in in 35 years ago, I made my own paint. And that was in response to the Swedish painted furniture and everything else that I'd found since. And I was in my early 40s.
How about that?
So we read in your bio that it was through a chance encounter in Holland that
Exactly.
that happened. So can you tell
Exactly.
us about what happened
Rediscovered.
and
Yeah.
how that began?
Yeah, chance encounters are great, aren't they? So there I was teaching around the place, and I'd been asked by somebody in the Netherlands to come and teach. So I went to Utrecht, and we taught some basic ideas about painting furniture. I didn't have my own paint at that time, so it was very difficult to get the right stuff, but I knew what I wanted to do. And I met this man who was on my workshop, and he said, I think I might have said I'd love to make my own paint. And he sidled up to me and said, I heard you say you wanted to make your own paint. Well, I know a paint factory.
Oh,
Whoa, okay. So I don't remember whether it was the next day or the next week, and we went to Belgium. So from Utrecht in Holland, in the Netherlands, we went to this amazing paint factory. And there I met a wonderful, small, independent paint manufacturer who was interested in what I had to say.
That's amazing. So I don't
wow.
believe in chance. I think that was all
Yeah.
meant to be. It all came together. So
Yeah.
I want to go back just a little bit. So the mural painting and the decorative painting techniques, that was born out of you needing to make money in some way and you were
Yeah.
doing mural painting, but was your earlier work, the earlier art that you were making, was it also related to that somehow?
Well, what you mean when I was at art school and that
Yes,
sort of thing?
yes,
No, art
right.
school was completely different. So art school was at that time, and it probably still is really quite conceptual and a bit more about yeah, concepts, and it's not terribly painterly. And it was partly me wanting to get back into paint. But when I was doing my degree show, you had to end up doing a whole show with your paint about what your show was about. And I did stuff with I was very interested in, it sounds weird because I don't like tattoos now, but it was about tattoos and about people making symbols and stuff. And so there were big figures that I made, like figures of Atlas and figures of the world, because I've always been interested in the world. And they had, and there were ideas of, I love mum. Do you remember that? Well,
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
maybe mom, or an anchor and hula hula girls. I just thought they were really interesting symbols. So that was what my work was about. Very, very different. But I was always interested in feet on the ground. What was it about?
Hmm.
Why do people want to do stuff?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I kind of see a little bit of a relationship because tattoos are about symbols and the
Mm.
Pennsylvania Dutch and the Swedish.
Yeah.
They're very symbol oriented, and I'm attracted to that too. And I also know you love the Bloomsbury Group and Charleston House, which I absolutely adore. So all of those influence came to be in your world of creating paint.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I've also got a lot of interest in different people around the world because I'm a big mixture of people. And so that also, I've always felt somebody from the world, not someone who is just English or Australian. I'm born in Australia, but I don't feel particularly, I feel everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
S-
connected
So,
to everything.
so Annie, you have this beautiful quilt of music and art and everything that's come together, and you've written a beautiful book, and you're in your mid 40s, and you found a paint company, and then you say, "I'm going to start a paint company." I mean, that's that's a big deal. I mean, that's what how did that start? What was the seeds of inspiration to get that going?
Well, I've been doing, as I say, a lot of research, and I knew about different sorts of paint. And
Yeah,
I had already bought some furniture, and I was trying to paint it in what you would call acrylic paints, and I couldn't do what I wanted.
right.
One, the colors were wrong; they were too harsh, too bright, too clean. I couldn't mess them up. I couldn't merge them. I couldn't use. Oil paint takes too long to dry. You need something quick. In my sort of life, our lives, too quick. This is before children at that point. I was trying to paint furniture. So I've been looking and researching and trying to find, what did they paint? Why did their paintings look so beautiful? So when
Right.
you look at Swedish furniture, that's beautiful. Why were mine looking so yucky, really yucky? You know, the green was too bright, all of that. So I started to research that, and I think if you've been a painter, you've been trained as a painter, you're used to taking an idea and developing it. And I think that's a lot to do with why I did it. I mean, I wasn't making a business plan. I was not making a business plan. At that point, I'd never heard of a business plan. I had no idea. No idea. So when I started to make it into a business, again, I didn't know what I was doing. And I was told to make a business plan. If you want, I'll tell you what I think about business plans.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I was amazed because I was told, they were saying, so what do you expect to make in the first year? What do you expect to make in the second year? What are your overheads? What are your whatever, all the rest of them? I'm like, the answer to all of these questions is, I don't know, which is true of anybody who starts a business.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they've already got something set up, you have no idea. And they said, which still makes me laugh, oh, just make it up. It doesn't matter. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. What's the point
Why
of
are you
making
asking?
it? Why are you asking?
Yeah.
So, and I do think this is a bit of a problem, especially with people like myself who have a vision. I had a very big vision. I knew exactly, no, I didn't exactly know what I wanted, but I had a vision of what it would be. And I knew that what I wanted to do. And I knew how much people would love it, I think. My idea was that everybody's creative and these are the tools. You need some things that are easy. I wanted to make a paint that you didn't have to prime or sand. I wanted to make a paint that you could mix the colors so there'd be no black in it. I wanted to make a paint that would stick to anything, would dry quickly. I had all of those ideas and would have lots of techniques. Now, if I said that to, say, a bank manager, that would be like completely over their head. It wouldn't mean a thing. So I've since heard people who give business talks who are women who say that there was a particular woman called Trini who makes makeup. And she said, if you go to a man and tell him that you want to do this because women will love it because they want to look younger or they want to do this, they want to do that, nobody knows. All they want to know is, what's the turnover in the first year? What's the
Yeah.
turnover in the third year? And that is a language I do not speak. So I've never been successful ever in raising money, ever. I
Yeah.
just don't seem to be able to do it because,
Well, yeah. And I think that unfortunately, when you go in front of some people too, they have such a narrow perspective of what is going to be a success. I've listened to the lady who started It Cosmetics, for example, and she went in front of a venture capital person, and he said, "Well, no one's going to buy makeup from you because of your size." And they, yeah, and they don't look like you. And she walked out, and she, long story short, sold the business 7 years later for like billions of dollars. And the first letter she got was from that guy who said, yeah, I was wrong. And she said he bought into the beauty industry. And so I think that unfortunately, people are so closed minded that they don't see something that's new and fresh. And especially your paint changed the way we all paint. And you're right, you allowed for creativity for everybody. And
yeah.
it's amazing. It's amazing. So thank you for that.
It seems like part of why you developed the paint was out of your own need and
Yeah.
knowing what you needed and wanted. But I think what also is really smart is you were also thinking, because you're a person of the world, what other people might
Yeah.
want and making it very accessible to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, it was just by chance, really, because it is exactly what I want to do. I love the idea that other people are creative. I think loads of people are creative in their own ways, different ways. We're all different in different ways, and we're all at a journey in different ways. So now I go on Instagram and I see people using paint that I would like, oh, no, I don't like that at all. But I don't say that is disgusting. I go, well, maybe you're at a different part of the journey.
Hmm.
You might be up here or down there or to the side or whatever, but where it's all valid and we're all doing what we want. And and you should be able to do that. And I just thought that that was a possibility. And I always think that if I like it, other people will like it because I'm really quite ordinary. I mean, you don't want to say I don't think I'm extraordinary and different. I think yeah, I've said
Yeah,
it really.
and I think you made you made the paint so approachable. I am not a trained artist, but I have adored your paint from almost from the very beginning, because it's so forgiving, and it is
Yeah.
it allows you to be creative, and it is for everyone, and so I think that's what makes it unique, and yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
made it. Sorry, I'm just going to say one thing. You're right. It's very forgiving, but it's not just forgiving for someone who is new to it. It's also forgiving
yeah,
for me. I can
yeah,
change my mind. So
yeah,
that's important.
I
yeah.
love that. Gotta
And
love
you
that
can
about any kind of art supply because we do change our mind.
yeah, and you can
Yeah, very much
create and you
so.
can add, and it makes it unique. And I
Yeah.
love that about the paint. Let's take a quick minute and thank our amazing sponsors. Our podcast is proudly brought to you today by Jet Creative and Urban Stems. Jet Creative is a women-owned marketing firm committed to community and empowerment since 2013. Are you ready to rebloom and build a website or start a podcast? Visit jetcreative.com/podcast to kickstart your journey. They will help you bloom in ways you never imagined. And bonus, our listeners get an exclusive discount when you mention ReBloom. And a huge thanks to Urban Stems, your go-to and our go-to source for fresh, gorgeous bouquets and gifts delivered coast to coast. Use Bloom Big 20 and save 20% on your next order. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at ReBloom Podcast. Thanks to our sponsors, and thanks to you for joining us today.
So we like to talk also about you've made this change. You're starting a paint company, and you mentioned that part of the challenges involved raising money and speaking the language of the bankers. Like when you launched, did you launch with a certain number of paints, and was there a capital investment, or were there other challenges? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I didn't have any money to invest at all. And luckily, I started the business with someone who wanted not to invest money, but time. So I had someone in Belgium, Netherlands and Belgium, and he wanted to invest time. He thought it was a great idea, and he started selling it and selling it in various shops. So he didn't put any money into it. I didn't put any money into it. But with those two things, myself and this lovely man called Joris, he and I and the paint company launched. And the paint company, we didn't make much paint to begin with, and so they didn't invest much. There were 12 colors. They were all traditional colors, Swedish sort of colors, and sort of quite traditional. And so we launched those 12 colors and we started selling them mainly in the Netherlands, but also in England and then in Spain. So that's where we started right to begin with. And that went really, really well. But I didn't have any money and I just did it. And there was no internet. So I used to try to sell it, to tell people about it in magazines and what have you. That was really hard. So I've always been interested in the marketing. The marketing, I call it communication, because that's all I'm doing. I'm communicating it. And I had, and when I sold it in England, I sold it through a small shop called Relics, who I'm still selling my paint through them today. And Relics then employed some salesmen, I don't think they employed him again. He was doing it on commission only, and he started selling it. So it was all done on, just people just sort of believing in it. I've always said I'm quite lucky. I have sort of angels. I mean, I'm not airy fairy, but I sort of, if you've got a good story and it's real, I think that helps.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
So along the way, you're coming out with your 27th book, I believe. So you're writing books all along the journey. And
Yes.
was that part of the communications and the way you were reaching people through
Well, to
those
begin
books?
with, I wrote the books before my paint came out. So
Oh,
I
okay.
was already painting. So when I was writing those books, that complete book of decorative paint techniques was before my book, but before the paint. It was all about techniques and stuff. And it was all about oil paint at that point as well. So it was before, but then because I'd already established my name, I was able to write books about my paint or about the paint techniques, not so much about my paint, but about the techniques we use my paint. So it's very nice of you to mention. I have my 27th book coming out in
Next month, I
about
thought.
How about
two
that?
weeks. It should be out on the 8th of April. So it's
Oh,
about 6 weeks to come.
and I just bought a bunch when I saw you at the gift show. I bought a bunch of your quarterly
Oh,
publications,
yes.
which
The
are
colors.
gorgeous. They're
They are
so
good.
beautiful. I couldn't decide which ones. I had to have them all. So
Thank
I
you.
got all of them when I was there.
They are, I mean, I shouldn't say that because they are really good. They are very good. Each one is a color, and we concentrate. Yeah, that's the colorist. It's actually twice a year we do them, but they are
Oh, okay.
amazing. Yeah,
That
yeah,
And if
no,
you're a
great.
color lover, you just, yeah, I
Yeah,
had to have
yeah. Well,
them.
like you love color, and that
I
really
do.
floats your boat.
I
Yep.
think we're all such color lovers. And
Yeah.
so Annie, you open the door to this new paint company. But yet often when you open the door to one thing, other things happen. So as Lori was just asking, the books, teaching, what other things happened as you were selling paint, but then your career evolved and changed and has grown from that in the past 25 years. What are some of the other blessings and things that have happened along the way?
Oh, blessings. Gosh. Well,
Yeah. Or
um,
challenges, either one.
loads of challenges.
Loads
My
of challenges.
goodness.
Yeah.
I'll talk about. I mean, the great positive things have been that I have. Um, we're all over the world now. Where we sell
Yeah.
our paint in, I think it's 52, 56 countries, something like that, which is
Wow.
amazing.
Wow.
We sell everywhere. We make the paint here now in England, where I'm sitting right behind the computer, is is the factory, which is incredible. I mean, I that's something that I'm incredibly proud of. I can't
Wow.
quite believe it.
You built your own factory.
We built our own factory.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a
Yeah,
huge
Wow.
pivot.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
That was
huge.
well. It was very, very important. My husband made me do that. Well, made he did it. I was very scared too, but it does mean you have ultimate control because what happens is that all the paint factories we've been with, they'd say, "Oh, well, they never said it. You just find that that blue was not quite the blue that it used to be," and they go, "No, no, we've not changed anything at all." You know, yes, you have. No, no, we haven't. No, no.
Uh,
And
Yeah.
so you don't have control. I wanted my paint to have no black in it, and they'd say, "We've made it with no black." And then I'd see, yes, there's black in it. I can tell because when you add white to the paint, you'll see it's got a grayness to it. So,
mhm.
we have a saying in England, I'm not as green as I'm cabbage looking. So they could tell me that, but I knew that they put black in it. There were lots of other things. Sometimes the quality wasn't so good. Maybe they had skimped on something. So anyway, we made our own, and that's made a huge difference. We make it in South Africa in another factory because the rand is low and so challenging. So we make it in England. now for the rest of the world. So everything you buy will be from made in England. Next to my factory, we test it every batch we make. We do 3 batches through it, check that we've got the right color, that it's got the right consistency. We test it for loads of different things. And we keep a little bit aside to make certain that if someone comes back to us and says, your batch number 5432, it's doing this, and you go, oh, just have a look. No, it's not. And that can be very awkward for some people because they say, yes, it doesn't work. Well, you think, well, did you let it freeze? Or are you keeping it in a hot cupboard, or what are you doing? So we check it. So yeah, we make it ourselves. That's been an amazing thing.
How long ago did you do that?
I'm really bad with time, but it's probably about 6 years ago.
Oh, so not so long
Maybe more.
ago.
Okay.
It's long before. How long is COVID ago?
5.
2020.
5. Oh, well, then it's probably about 8 years ago in that case. It was a good few years before COVID. And we were so busy through COVID as well because of that, and we kept making it madly.
Oh,
So
yeah.
making the factory has been amazing. Being just really pretty successful has been amazing. And I got, I think one of the things that I like the most, well, not the most, it's not the most at all. One is getting the CBE, which is very high award from the King.
Oh,
That I
wow.
got 2 years ago, which is amazing. It's the CBE, Commander of the British Empire. It's incredible.
Wow,
So I
that's
got that.
incredible.
Yeah, well, Americans may not know, English people will know. It's a very high honor. So
That's a
that's
very big
amazing.
honor.
The other amazing thing
Congratulations.
is that thank you. I'm always meeting people and they burst into tears and they hug me and burst into tears. So I make people cry.
But in a good way.
Yeah.
I think I probably maybe teared up a little bit when I saw you were sitting in there. I'm like, what?
I find that really bizarre because I don't get it. But anyway, that's very, very nice. It's been very challenging over the years as well because every person, every man and his dog, as I say, has made a chalk paint, and it's not chalk paint. They don't get it. They don't understand. My paint is completely different to anybody else's. Some people get to a fair approximation, but I've got some secrets that they don't know, and it just is a better paint that I make for what I want it to be. Now, there are other paints now which they say, but I want a smooth paint. You can make my paint smooth if you know how to
Yeah.
paint. If you can't make my paint smooth, there are other paints, but they'll only do smooth. I'm interested in a paint that does lots of different things so you can express yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a little bit like, silk compared to a sort of a nylon.
Yeah.
A nylon will do everything. It doesn't crinkle. It doesn't do certain things, but it doesn't do the things that silk does. So silk
Right.
is amazing.
You have
Right.
truly an artistic paint because it allows for just wonderful flexibility. And
Yeah.
I think that, to your point, it lets the artist or the novice really explore and find, what works best for them and for their project. And that's the beauty of of your
That
paint.
is exactly right. Yes.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
want smooth, you get smooth. If you want
Yeah.
rough and textured, you get that. You can do anything.
Can do anything with it.
What I love about the conversations we have on this podcast is like in your wildest dreams, would you have pictured this is where your life would have headed you?
No,
Yeah.
no, no.
Like when you were that girl in the band.
Yeah.
No,
It's so
definitely
crazy
not.
to me how just chance encounters and you being a research nerd, which I also am that,
Me
and
too.
going down a rabbit hole and exploring. It's something that really tugged at you or you had a passion for, and then turning that into a business is really beautiful.
Yeah.
Can I just say, though, that it was chance, but I did have a plan.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
What do they say when luck meets opportunity?
Or be
what
ready
is,
when the luck happens. And
yeah,
I
be
love
ready
that.
when opportunity. I don't know,
Yeah.
something about luck and
Yes, you're
opportunity.
ready when the luck happens.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
very nice. I
exactly.
like that idea.
That
I've not
that
heard
is,
Yeah.
that.
Ina Garten said that, and I love that because you worked really, really hard, and at each
Yeah,
pivot point along the way, you didn't just build a a a new plant. I mean, that took many years to get to where you are, but,
yeah,
it's interesting, sometimes I think and that's what we try to encourage our listeners, follow that passion from the beginning. You may not in the very, very seed of that inspiration know where it's gonna take you, but to your point, if you start to have a plan, if you
mm,
start to think about it and reach for it, it it sometimes comes up it happens.
yeah.
It happens, but you have to have a little bit of a plan to know
I
where you're
did have
going.
quite a strong plan, actually.
Good. Yeah.
It wasn't to make money. It wasn't to have what I've got now, but it was to do something that achieve something. It was so I wanted to be able to paint and have a business. That was my actually the real germ of what I wanted to be able to paint, look after my children, and have a lovely house and be able to paint. That was the idea. And it needed to be sustainable so that I could make money as well and but also be creative. And so that's always been the germ of it. And then as you go, you sort of adjust it. And then you go, well,
Yeah.
to do this better, it would be good to have the factory or whatever, all sorts of things. And I'm about to make a new adjustment to that. I don't know what it will be yet, but my husband and I are going to sit down together and work out because now we've got to a certain age. I'm sure viewers can work out, or listeners can work out. So I'm not. I've got no plans to stop, but I do have to think about where we're going
Yeah.
and how I want it to be. And so, it's that another time now, and as there have been along the way, all the time.
Are
Um,
your children involved in the business?
Not really, sort of, and not really. So I've got
Yeah.
three sons. One who's a traveler and a teacher. He's traveling around the world at the moment, and he on a motorbike. So he's
Oh,
going to do
boy.
that for the next 2 years. I've got another son who's a musician, and he also runs a small at the moment, but maybe big in the end, art school for children with his
Oh,
girlfriend,
wow.
his partner,
Love it.
and another one who is a pretty successful musician, writer, and composer, and so he's doing that. But he's also a designer, so they, whatever.
So
Um,
all creative,
All
very
yeah, very
creative.
creative.
creative lot. Yeah,
Is your
yeah.
husband also?
He's very, very supportive. He did sciences and maths. He's a very different logical thinker. He's everything that I'm not.
Oh, I can relate
I'm
to
one of
that in my
those.
husband.
Well, you see, I think behind every person who is creative, to do well,
Yeah.
you need someone who's a clear thinker.
Yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because I do tend to get, like many people, sometimes I think artistic, autistic, I don't know what, but
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
quite wound up and difficult to work out who I am and what I am. And so it's someone who goes, hold on, carry on, yeah, listens, and sorts me out a little. Not sorts me out. Actually, he never tells me what to do. He just listens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that helps hugely.
But it's great to have that sounding board for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounding board is exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
So,
someone who still encourages you though and doesn't
yeah,
shut you down.
exactly. Very, very important. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's been a lot of challenges along the way, a huge
Yeah.
number. And there are so many, as I say, other brands out there, which is complicated. And I've had to do some legal cases, which is nobody wants to do legal
No.
cases, I can assure you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the
Horrible.
challenges that you don't necessarily want.
No.
Have you learned that what have you learned about yourself along this journey?
Well, that's a very nice question. I think I've learned I'm stronger than I thought I was.
Mm.
Funnily enough, getting the CBE gave me I don't know why, but it gave me a huge amount of confidence.
Mhm.
I don't know why. I know that my parents, they would never have known about it. They never knew about it, but they would have been terribly proud. And I think,
Mhm.
in a way, you do everything for your parents, don't you? In a funny
Yes,
way,
Yeah.
you
you
do.
Yeah.
want your mum and your
Y
dad to come and go, "Oh, well done."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
And I just think I've got more confident about who I am over the years, but I think that comes with age anyway.
Oh, I
Um,
agree.
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
does, doesn't it? It's very, very nice. And postmenopause is, I just want to tell everybody out there, any woman out there, it's bliss. It's the
Yeah.
best thing ever. People are always complaining about the menopause. Don't complain about the menopause, because postmenopause is the best thing ever. So I think that equilibrium is
Yeah.
fabulous.
Absolutely.
Um, and yeah, it's good. Yeah, I don't know where I was going to go with that now.
I think
What
it's
are
oh, go ahead, Laura. I was
I
gonna
was just gonna ask what you're looking forward to, like,
yeah.
in this blissful postmenopausal part of your life.
Well,
This next chapter, this pivot.
I've just come back from India with my husband. We do painting retreats in
Oh,
India and in England. We're looking to do some more in other parts of the world. But meantime, India is coming next year. So there'll be a retreat in India in February.
Ooh.
You can book now if you would like to, Laurie. Please do
yeah.
come.
Ooh.
And Jamie, please do come.
Yes, please. Oh my.
It is wonderful. And that's something that I can't wait to do next year. It's just the nicest thing ever. You stay in this wonderful fort, which is beautifully decorated. And it's run by this lovely Englishman. Um, and it's sort of a wonderful mix of Indian and England,
Oh,
England and India.
perfect. How
It's
How
fabulous.
perfect.
lovely.
So
Oh,
I'm
how
looking forward to
lovely.
doing that and more. I'm going off to Malta on Wednesday to do a demo to some stockists in Malta, which is lovely. Um, and I do like traveling. I like seeing and meeting people. Um,
Mhm.
and more painting. That's all the nice things. And just to get through business as it is, business is, many people will tell you, it's always a challenge. It's quite challenging at the moment because there's a lot of nobody's not sure what is happening. And
Mhm.
No.
so I think it's an interesting time in the world.
Yeah.
And I just like to get through all of that, really.
Yeah, wouldn't
Well,
we all?
wouldn't we all? And let's give you a little plug because just like we have rebloomed into this podcast,
Oh,
you
yeah.
are becoming a podcaster and talking about color, which
Yeah.
is amazing. Want to talk about a little bit about your podcast, which
Oh,
we would love
thank
to
you. You're
share?
very, very kind. Yeah, I'm very excited about this. It's called The Colorist, which was the
Yeah.
same name as my magazine or bookazine. And it is each time rather, episode, we do a color and the history behind it. Because my
Yeah.
colors are not just fancy names, but they are about a history of something. So the first one's come out and it's about Capri Pink and Elsa Schiaparelli and Shocking Pink. And it's a great joy for me to talk because I've got so much. I am a nerd about it and I know quite a lot. And it's her combination of art, and she was a bit of a surrealist, and she worked with people like Dali, and it's terrific to be able to talk about her. And also there is a connection with India there, because if you've not been to India, you will see, if you go to India, you'll see everything is loads and loads of bright pink with Barcelona
Yeah.
orange or bright orange with,
Oh, yummy.
I know, it's gorgeous, and
Yum.
yes,
It's
you would
so good.
so love it.
And
And
this pink is
turquoise.
fabulous.
Yes,
Fabulous. Yeah.
yes, it is. So
Yeah.
Capri Pink with a bright turquoise and a bright green and a bright, actually the color of that sort of it's sort of verdigris, bright verdigris.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's so many bright colors, and it doesn't look ugly. If you said that, it sounds as though it'd be like circusy, or well, it's not.
No, it's gorgeous.
It's
It's a gorgeous
absolutely
pink.
amazing.
It's a rich, beautiful pink, but it's bold. And I
Yeah.
love it. It's
So
fabulous.
the next one is about Pure, which is a very different thing. And we talk about Siri Morn, who is an American decorator. And that's the first. Well, I'm not going to give it away. It's
Okay.
very, very
I
interesting.
can't
We
wait.
can't wait.
Oh my gosh.
Well, and then there's another thing that we haven't talked about. So I do want to just talk about another one of the products you have. So you started with the chalk paint, but you've also moved on to wall paint. And I'm very
Absolutely.
excited because I'm doing a little renovation and I'm already picking out my colors. But can you tell us a little bit about what brought you into wall paints? And
Well, you see, for me, everything is touches everything else. You can't
right.
just have furniture paint. You've got to have a wall paint. So you could use chalk paint for your walls, but if you've
Hmm.
got children or it's a kitchen or it's where there's people touching it, you need something which is strong. And I was a great believer in some really strong colors. So I've brought out this wall colors. So I've got colors like Schinkel green, which is a bright, bright green, named after a 19th, 18th, 19th century German architect who used these bright colors.
Hmm.
I'm going to do a podcast about him.
Hmm.
And so bright greens and lots of bright colors, as well as some creamy whites and stuff like that. But it's all. So I just wanted to do those and that they would harmonize with my chalk paint colors.
Yeah.
They would all be part of the same
I've
thing.
been wanting to do a mural in my dining room, so I will I
Yes.
will look
Yeah.
into those.
Well, we've
There-
got little pots as well, little cans, so you could
Perfect.
do that. Oh, that would be a
Perfect.
lovely idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
I'm
nice.
waiting till my husband's out of town.
Yeah.
And I'll just surprise him when he comes home.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
Lori can come do that. I have an 1890s Victorian home that I was just thrilled seeing those colors because they're traditional, but yet they're fresh and they're
Yeah.
beautiful. So I think they will be perfect.
Exactly. My house is actually 1890s or maybe a bit 1880s, I'm not sure, but it's Victorian. And
Yeah.
I've got, very bright, I've got Schinkel green walls
Oh
and
boy.
Mm,
cadmium blue walls and yeah, lots of bright colors.
love it.
So,
We
yeah.
Love
love
it.
it. Well, we love color. We love joy. Oh my gosh, Annie, this has just been an amazing conversation. Lori, what else do you want to ask Annie? I don't want to let her go.
Well, we always wind up
Yeah.
asking for that little piece of advice that you might want to share with our listeners about pivoting and making changes or about living authentically.
Oh, I love authentic. That's really nice. Yeah, you've got to be who you are. Don't pretend you're somebody else.
Yeah.
Um, I meet people all the time when I'm teaching and going around. On Saturday, I met a woman who said she'd been an accountant for years and now she's given that all up and she's now come back to where she loved to live and she feels like she's her own self again. And she's started to paint, and this was her first workshop to get her on the next journey. And she's so enjoying it. She said, I'm not artistic, but I love doing this. And I said, in that case, you'll do well. I think
Yeah.
you do what you're good at. And if you're good at communicating, be a communicator. If you're good at painting, I mean, you're never good at one thing. You're always good at several things, and put them all together and mix it, and do what you want, and don't try to be, and don't think that you have to be a certain thing. There's many ways to be creative. There are many ways to be successful. I mean, success
Yeah.
can be money, but it can be something else as well.
Yeah.
It can be just having a very nice life. I'm not saying that you should have. I'm not advocating poverty. I'm certainly not doing that. Um, I'm just saying that you can have a life which is lovely without being very rich financially. That's all.
Right.
Um, and I've been through some very hard times when I thought I was going to lose my house. Because really, when you're building a business, these things happen. So I was
Hmm.
building my house or building the business, and I did at one point think, "Oh my God, we're going to lose the business." This is many years ago, and I'm going to lose everything. And I remember standing at home. I was just about to make a cup of tea, and I said to my husband, "Well, do you know, we're very lucky because what we have, we're very rich in ideas."
Mm.
And I hope that doesn't sound too schmaltzy or too yucky, but I could work in a florist or in a garden center. Wouldn't have much money, but I'd be very happy. possibly to do that. But I've got lots of ideas, so I love to listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I like to read books. I can paint. I can do all of those things, and you don't need much money for it. I do want certain things though, and I do want to be comfortable in that. I don't want to be cold. I don't want to be whatever.
I do think when you're a creative person, you always tend to have not only a plan B, but a plan C, a plan D.
Yeah.
Like you can keep coming up with a new plan
Yeah.
whenever you need to, and you can pivot whenever you need to or when you want to.
That's a very good point, and maybe that's the problem. I know some people are just freak. They can't. What am I going to do if I don't have a job? If I don't, or no, you need a job, but how am I going to cope? And I just think we're probably flexible enough to be able to manage to do it in lots of different ways.
Yep.
So
To your point, we're all
I'm
good
just
at many things. Yeah. I
Sorry,
love
yeah.
that. We were all good at, and I was getting the visual of your paints because each of your paints do things individually, but the whole premise too is, or the whole purpose is that you can mix them together. And if we take all of those unique things that make us who we are, we become, and we mix them all together because we're good at many things, you become just uniquely amazing. And
You're
Yes,
so good at doing that, Jamie. You're
No,
so
very
good
good.
at like
Sorry.
wrapping that all
That's
up
a
in a
whole
bow.
skill.
I love what you do so much. I really do.
Thank you.
And thank you for the gifts that you have given to so many of us for so many years. And just because you've given us the ability to be creative, you have created businesses and artists and just people who are hobbyists, but you've let your gift has been a gift to so many. Thank you.
Well, I'm so proud of that.
much.
I mean, I can't tell you. That's just amazing when people tell me that. It's lovely.
Incredible legacy.
Incredible.
Yes,
Absolutely.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Annie, thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining us
Well,
today. It has
thank
been
you for letting me talk and burble on and be.
it's been
No,
perfect.
it was an honor, such an honor. And I'm so glad I wandered into that
I am
showroom.
too, Laurie. It's amazing.
I'm coming next
Laurie's
year.
a similar person. She does all sorts of stuff.
She
Oh,
does.
yeah.
Or next year, India. Lori and I are going to look into that. That would be, and anybody else, please go. That would be amazing.
I would love to just see the textiles in India,
Oh, yeah.
the block
Laurie,
printing
if you don't
technique.
come, I don't think I'm ever going to talk to you again. You really should come. It is extraordinary.
We should go. We'll take ReBloom on the road. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. And until we meet again, peace, love, and ReBloom. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you. Bye.
Life is too short not to follow your passions. So go out there and let your heart plant you where you are meant to be and grow your joy.
We will be right here sharing more incredible stories of reinvention with you. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode of ReBloom.
Until next time, I'm Jamie Jameson.
And I'm Lori Siebert.
Peace, love, and ReBloom, dear friends.